Hello, welcome back to the Single Society. My name is Jo, and this is the podcast series where we explore single life, all that is positive and all that is best about being single. Now, this episode you've landed on here is the fifth of a 7-part series exploring consent when it comes to singles nights. Now, of course, singles nights are not for everybody. The very first episode in this series was exploring that. So, if you want to go back and listen to those other episodes first, you're more than welcome to, but they are standalone, so stick with me if you prefer. If you haven't already, I'd encourage you to subscribe to this podcast. It means that you are notified when new episodes come up, so you can follow along with the rest of the episodes in this series, and of course, everything that is to come after that as well. Plus, it enables me to keep on growing this space for single people and exploring it in a more positive way. So, this is the fifth episode looking at consent when it comes to singles nights. And I'm going to focus on another area that's about you as a potential attendee at a singles night and what your role is when it comes to exploring consent for yourself, exploring boundaries, and how you interact with others. Now, obviously, when it comes to the main focus of the event, it's going to be how you are interacting with other attendees, respecting their personal boundaries, asking appropriate questions, and those things are fundamentally important. They're the kind of bedrock, if you like, of what makes a successful singles night. And I, and at least a couple of event hosts, will be there to look after you at these nights to make sure that they are safe spaces for you. But obviously, each person as an attendee also needs to make sure that they're respecting the personal boundaries of others and taking their consent just as seriously. And for myself, as somebody who organises these events, obviously I want every attendee to be completely safe. I also have a responsibility to the event hosts. So, as I say, there will normally be at least a couple of people to welcome you to these nights, to look after you, to make sure you're okay. And I need to know that they're safe, that they're well looked after. That is just as important to me as anything else. Now, the hosts at these singles nights, at least at the ones that I run, I appreciate this could be different for others, but for myself, the hosts at these events are not participants. They are there to look after you, to make sure that you have a wonderful time, to make sure you feel safe in the space, but they are not there looking for a romantic partner. And it's really important to respect that boundary and that line of consent. Now, this is in no way gendered. I have female hosts, I have male hosts, it just depends on the particular night that you go to, and it's the same across the board. Now, what I will say is that most people that come to these events are just absolutely delightful, very lovely. And if you haven't listened to this episode, the people, you might come and naturally assume, well, they're at a singles night. It's okay to ask. As with everybody, if you kind of make that mistake, it's a very understandable one to make, but they then explain, oh, I'm actually just hosting tonight, I'm not taking part. Obviously, please respect that boundary. Don't try and persuade, don't try and push. I really need to know that they're okay at events. Now, fortunately, this is not something that's become a challenge as to date. The events do attract really lovely people, but that is something that would absolutely be a kind of like one strike policy for me. If somebody were to not respect the host in any way, to not respect their boundaries, you would not be able to come to a singles night in the future. So it's something I take very seriously. So, on a sort of like lighter note with this, and thank you for bearing with me with that bit, it's important, but I appreciate it's a slightly more serious topic. Consent when it comes to the host takes other forms as well. So, respecting that they are not participating is the most important, but please do always speak to them with respect at all times. Now, I'm sure I'm preaching largely to the converted, I'm sure you are always lovely, but there's lots of reasons that these things are really important, both to me and to ensure the night as a whole is a success. Perhaps the most obvious reason is just like fundamental human decency. You want to be nice to everybody, you want to treat everybody with courtesy. They are also there, they are working, and they will always do their best, but it's important that you speak to them as you yourself would want to be spoken to. Now, I mention that in particular because I think that everyone comes to singles nights for slightly different reasons, which is absolutely fine to have your own context that you're bringing to the event. But for some people, I do really appreciate that you might be feeling quite nervous. And if you are really proactively looking for a partner, it may be something that you're taking, quite seriously. It's important to you. And that's great. And I fully respect that, wanting to take the singles night seriously. But if you then haven't met the person that you've pictured, that you've imagined at the event, I also do appreciate that can feel quite frustrating. And I don't want to invalidate how you may feel in that moment. But you have to remember that, we will always run the night exactly as advertised with all the things you'd expect. So there's conversation cards, there's games, there's quizzes, lots of different things at the event. We can't guarantee that your perfect partner is going to be there. We can guarantee you a room of lovely local singles at an independent local venue, but the rest is luck, essentially. I hate saying that, but it is. It's luck as to who comes. And if you are feeling frustrated at not having met the right person, you absolutely cannot take that out on the host. Please don't be rude to them. Please don't take that frustration out on them. If you are feeling upset, if you need support, that's very different. Please do go to them for that. Please feel free to have that conversation. They will be able to help, whether it's just having a few minutes out, moving you to a different table at the event. So please do go to them for help. But do not take any frustrations out on them. And the same thing goes for the other people who will be working at the event. So that is the bar staff, that is any security that might be there. It's the same rules as any other night out. It's just really important to treat everybody with respect and with courtesy. And it might sound obvious, but I think it's one of the slightly less obvious ones, because when you think of consent in the context of a singles night, you do tend to think about like your own personal boundaries and then a potential partner or somebody who you've met on the night and what their line of consent might be. But for those hosting it, they are also people present, and you also need to think about their lines. As I say, I'm preaching to converted with you, I'm absolutely certain. But your support in this is massively appreciated. The next episodes are going to look more specifically at you again when it comes to singles nights and your participation in them, exchanging numbers, all that kind of thing. So please do make sure that you subscribe so that you can see when those episodes are released. I'll catch you in those ones.